as in I am in the Captain America Control Center. We are graced by the presence of the Queen with Miss Donna. You may or may not hear said pets. And if Jerry jumps up, it's because Jasper has went ahead and peed on his leg, because it happened in one of our team meetings earlier. If you have questions, please use the question box. We will be answering all of the questions at the end, and somebody's got some feedback. Let me see who that is. I believe it was Marilyn. I muted her. I'll unmute you when you can. You're not seeing a picture, Judy. So try refreshing. You should see the webinar. You should see all of our lovely faces at the top. Christy's saying she can see us. Okay. With that, Jerry, take it away.
Well, thank you very much, Matt, and good morning all, and welcome to the Adult Education and Workforce Development statewide webinar for what would have been tax day, April 15, 2020. Obviously, I'm Jerry Hafner, and with me this morning is Marilyn and the Adult Education team. As Matt said, we are coming to you from all parts of Indiana for this remote edition of our statewide webinar that I'm simply calling Across Indiana. Next. During this time of uncertainty, I was reminded of a quote from our dear friend, Mr. Rogers. He said, "When I was a boy and I would see scary things in the news, my mother would say to me, 'Look for the helpers.' We will always find people who are helping." To this day, especially in times of disaster, I remember my mother's words, and I'm always comforted by realizing there are so many helpers, so many caring people in this world. Marilyn and I, along with the Adult Ed team that's with us this morning, we continue to be inspired and heartened by your passion, your willingness to find so many creative ways and so many creative solutions to learning when our physical doors are closed. Indiana, we want you to know, is truly blessed to have adult educators like you who continue to find so many ways to touch so many lives. We thank you so very much. Next. Since our last webinar, wow, how have things changed? There have been more than 8,500 confirmed COVID-19 cases this morning in Indiana alone. The most cases have been reported in Marion County. There is a huge number in Northwest Indiana as well. Next. As you know, Governor Holcomb ordered all Hoosiers to, as he said, hunker down and stay at home until at least April 20th. Meanwhile, Indianapolis Mayor Joe Hogstead later announced that the stay-at-home order for Indianapolis and Marion County was extended through May 1st. Next. As you also are probably aware, as we all are, we know how many Hoosiers across our state are hurting and are unemployed. Individuals must apply. If you look to the far right there under Work 1, individuals must apply for unemployment benefits online using a computer, tablet, or smartphone. Online filing information has been distributed and can be found at www.unemployment.in.gov. Next. I want you to take a close look at these figures. The numbers filing initial claims for unemployment in Indiana are staggering. In about a month's time, more than 86,000 Hoosiers submitted claims for unemployment. This is compared to how our country is suffering. Approximately 11% of the U.S. labor force filed for benefits in the prior 3 weeks. Next. In the meantime, Governor Holcomb ordered closing our schools through the academic year. And just like what the governor did, we want to ensure in adult education that we protect and ensure the safety of our adult education students and staff. Next. While our physical doors are closed for now, our virtual doors are wide open. This includes distance education. Recently, AEC surveyed providers, and nearly every adult education program is offering some form of distance education and e-learning opportunities for our students. We continue to learn. We will post, and we have posted on our website, that list of our open doors, our programs that are providing virtual services across the state. We posted that this morning on our website so that you have up-to-date contact information for new and for existing students. And I particularly like McDowell Adult Education Center's flyer that they came up with. It's entitled "We Continue to Learn." They listed all their teachers along with email addresses and telephone numbers so that students and others could contact them directly. Next. Marilyn saw this from Dr. Seuss, and I thought it was cute, but it really applies to our situation. I will teach you in a room. I will teach you on Zoom. I will teach you in a house. I will teach you with my mouse. I will teach you here or there. I will teach because I care. Because I care. Next. When we began this journey together last month, I began receiving, as well as the AECs and Maryland, emails about the incredible steps that you, and in particular our teachers, were taking to reach out to students. Often advice was provided by PDFs to other teachers. And Dan and I would just like to take a couple of minutes this morning to share some of the wisdom, and there's plenty of wisdom here. Sheila Butler is the PDF for Broadview Learning Center in Bloomington, and she wrote to her teachers and the teachers there in Bloomington. The most important thing is to find a way to be in contact with your students. The most important thing that you can do is stay in contact. It is easy to get overwhelmed with all the ideas. Focus on one thing at a time. Next. Sheila also said, all of my students are on Remind, and I will use that for roll call and communication. They can take pictures of what they have done, or they can email me answers and essays. There's some good in all of this. I predict everyone's digital literacy will improve. Email is also a good way, especially with ELL students, because they can translate the email. Messaging on Facebook allows this as well. Next. Sheila continued, remember to keep account of student hours. Our assistants should be able to put in attendance remotely and can help with digital learning and communication. It's a new world we are embarking on. Look on this as a time to expand our teaching arsenal and our digital skills. I know we can do this. Dan?
Okay, next slide. Now we're going to take a look at another PDF, Karen Crawford. She's the PDF and teacher for Crawfordsville Resource Academy. In a similar email, Karen wrote, instructors have a lot on their plates at the moment. Some instructors may not be tech savvy and feel overwhelmed. Let's support each other as we move forward. And in the end, we will have an even stronger adult education program. There is a difference, she notes, between K-12 learners and an adult learner. Next slide. To enhance distance learning and virtual learning, Karen asked 3 questions. Number 1, is the material designed for children? If so, stay clear. We teach adults, not children. Number 2, is the material relevant to the HSC or an MSG in the TABE? And question number 3, are you making your material relevant to your adult learners' lives? She says, target, instruct your adults. They and you want results, and we can do this online. Next slide. She says, we have been bombarded with many trial online sites. Try to develop learning segments that you can keep for use with distance learning in the future. Try to give your students interesting information that promotes their self-efficacy in learning. Next slide. Now we're looking a little north towards Lafayette. Here we have Lindsey Brown. He is the teacher of the Lafayette Adult Resource Academy, and he also promotes staying connected. He says, for those of you who haven't attempted to teach classes via Zoom, I would highly recommend giving it a try. It seems a little daunting, but once you get the meeting set up, the rest is rather easy. It's been a huge blessing for me, and there have been a lot of tears shed by students as they have had the opportunity to connect with their fellow classmates. The community we have created at Lara is special. It means so much to so many different people. Thank you all for the hard work you do to make Lafayette and the surrounding communities a better place to live. Next slide. And next slide, there we go. And now we come to Central Indiana, and here's Natalie Reuter. She's the director of the adult education at MSD of Warren Township. And she pointed out that a lot may come of crisis. Quote, this has turned out to be an opportunity where we have all learned new skills, built up our team, introduced new technology to students, and shown our flexibility and adaptability. Our staff spent their spring break reaching out to text each and every student in the program to check on their social, emotional well-being. All of my students were ecstatic to be a part of our online learning program. Next slide. There is plenty of advice in these words. On your screen are takeaways from our PDFs, teachers, and directors. Please stay in touch and offer support during these uncertain times. We are all in this together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dan. Next slide. Well, during these uncertain times in adult education at the state office, we have tried to ease some of the restrictions when possible to make your jobs easier to serve students. And I want to spend a few minutes and go over what we have done so far. Next slide, please. Last month, Marilyn and I sent a letter to you outlining the initial steps that we had taken, as I said, to better serve you. Please be aware that all members of the state adult education team are available and may be reached by email, telephone, and/or text. Additionally, our PD team assembled a list of free or low-cost adult education distance learning opportunities. And this information, along with the letter that we sent to you earlier, was posted on our website for your convenience. Next slide. Let's turn to HSC testing. In response to the COVID-19 crisis, the Department of Workforce Development waived the 60-day time limit for HSC testing. Any candidate who sat for the HSC test this year from January 17th on and has not completed all 5 tests shall have the 60-day time limit waived. This waiver shall remain in effect until further notice. Next slide. When HSC testing centers become operational again and we're able to do in-person testing, rest assured that our dear friend Melinda McKinney, who is on the line with us, Melinda is ready and willing to approve more addendum test sites to help meet the testing needs in your communities. I want to now turn to Donna. Donna will talk a little bit about the grant submissions and a number of fiscal questions that you have had that she will try to provide some answers to you. Donna?
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Let's begin with the RFA grant submissions. Because of COVID-19, the submission deadline was moved from March 27th to April 10th of this year. Award decisions are expected in May. During this time, remember that the workforce development boards will review eligible providers' application materials to determine whether the applications are consistent with local plans. Given the deadline extension, be advised that grant awardees or subrecipients may not have a finalized contract until 2 to 3 months into the coming program year. The Department of Workforce Development, Office of Adult Education, cannot reimburse for any expenses until a subrecipient has a fully executed contract. All subrecipients need to have a plan in place to offer the adult education services until such time as reimbursements can be made. Next. Let's turn to fiscal matters now. Between now and the end of the program year, any unspent state adult education will revert back to the state's general fund. So we need to expend our state funds first. Any unspent federal adult education funds will essentially revert back to the state's adult education office, and then our office can reallocate those funds. Now, the question has arisen, will a program be penalized for not spending its adult education allocation? Next. And the answer is, since this is a grant competition year, the state office cannot hold providers accountable if they fail to utilize their funds fully. Because there's not a similar metric for new providers, there will be an impact in following years. Next. Programs may want to look at purchases at the end of the year that enhance opportunities to provide distance education and e-learning. Are there unmet technology needs that adult ed dollars could be utilized now and in the future? Unmet needs may include hardware and software, including online programs and curriculum. Distance education is not going away after this crisis subsides. I'm going to repeat that. Distance education is not going away after this crisis subsides. Keep this in mind as budgets are spent in the last quarter of the program year. Next. The U.S. Department of Education recently provided guidance regarding staff salaries and instructional costs. Can providers expend adult education dollars for teachers who facilitate online instruction? According to the federal office, states can use AFLA funds to pay teachers delivering distance learning programs if programs deliver adult education and literacy activities allowable under AFLA. Next. Regarding professional development, if a conference, training, or other activity is canceled due to COVID-19, may grant funds be used to reimburse non-refundable travel, lodging, or registration costs that were allowable at the time of booking? Yes, if a provider first seeks to recover non-refundable costs, such as travel and registration fees, associated from the entity that charged the fee. So please first try to get that money back, and most places will work with us and you because of the COVID-19 situation. Next. Some businesses are offering flexibility with regard to refunds, credits, and other remedies for losses due to the COVID-19 outbreak. If a provider is unable to recover the costs, the program may charge the grant for cancellation costs, provided the costs were reasonable and incurred in order to carry out an allowable activity under the grant. Now, back to Jerry Hafner.
Well, thank you, Donna. Let's turn to distance education. Indiana's distance education policy really provides flexibility in delivering services beyond traditional classrooms. In many statewide webinars in the past, we've talked about the importance of distance education and its impact on measurable skill gains. Little did we know that distance education and e-learning opportunities would be so critical now and in the future. On NRS Table 4C, as of last evening, the numbers participating in some form of distance education continue to rise. The numbers utilizing distance education have grown to 38%, nearly 4 in 10 adult education students. And we have approximately 20,620 students enrolled so far this year, compared to just 26% in program year 2018-2019. And frankly, we anticipate even more growth in a distance education. Next slide. Be aware that direct contact hours for distance education can be a combination of actual contact and contact through the following means: telephone, video, teleconference, other communication. The key is that the participant and program staff member can interact, and through which the learner's identity is verifiable, must be able to identify that the other person on the other line is that learner. Next. I specifically asked our friends at USDOE if it were possible to waive the requirement of 12 hours of actual or in-person or the direct contact for distance education for reporting purposes for the remainder of this program year, 2019-2020. The response that we received back, all the states received back as a result of that question, was no. A student must still meet the 12-hour actual contact requirement before being considered an enrolled participant for reporting purposes. Next. In their answer, USDOE mentioned many of the same things that I just mentioned a few minutes ago about meeting the 12-hour enrollment requirement. It can be met through procuring contact hours, again, through telephone, video, teleconference, online communication, Again, where the student and program staff can interact and where the participant identity is verifiable. Again, while you may be disappointed with the answer, I do and we do encourage you to use the flexibility that you have been given in the policy and in the guidance that we have provided to meet this requirement. Next. Marilyn, I want you to talk a little bit about a couple questions that constantly are asked of us about performance.
Good morning. So what steps will OCTAE take to account for a decrease in state performance in program year 19 because of the pandemic? Will states be penalized for performance issues? Indiana is a high-performing state, and we will continue to be held to that standard. Along with that, we will continue to hold local programs to similar metrics because we want to do nothing less for our students. In response to the question, the Department of Education and Labor will take the effect of COVID-19 outbreak into consideration in reviewing our PY19 data. As you know, part of this is because of the implementation of a new statistical adjustment model. The first year for which performance success or failure can be determined for some indicators applies to PY20, not to PY19. So depending on the length of our current situation, this could impact PY20, but we're less concerned about it for PY19. Next slide. The departments have said they will continue to closely monitor the effect of the COVID-19 outbreak and its impact on services and performance outcomes. We will continue to stay in close contact with the Department of Education and the Department of Labor and update you as as we learn more on how this might impact us. Jerry?
Thank you, Marilyn. And as you can see on that slide, we were at 67% in last program year. As of yesterday evening, we were at 58.81%, almost 59%. So we are still performing very well as a state, even in the midst of COVID-19, thanks to all your efforts. Want to move on to what I would consider the $64,000 question, and that comes down to assessment. USDOE provided guidance to states recently regarding assessment during this crisis. The question that was asked, will states be given the option to conduct virtual pre and post assessment testing? Here is the response from USDOE. States may choose to develop procedures to implement virtual test proctoring. States that choose to use this flexibility must have procedures to ensure, number one, the student who is testing can be properly identified. Two, any approved test that is used is properly secured. And three, the virtual proctor can properly administer the test. From that response, bottom line is, Indiana, as well as the federal adult education programs, the states, the territories, we can do remote assessment under specific conditions. Next. Test security measures would also require that only secure electronic versions of a test are administered by a virtual proctor and are deemed secure, and this is key, secure by the test publisher. And by the way, just a quick aside, I wanted to post a picture. We didn't do success stories this morning, But I wanted to post a success story there. Congratulations to Marilyn Reese for earning her HSC in February. She studied at Whitewater Adult Education in Connersville, and congratulations to her and to the program for that success. Next slide, please. Last week, DRC, the test publisher, proposed 2 solutions to assist states with remote testing. Solutions apply only for now, to TABE 11 and 12. Solutions for TABE Class E and task testing will come later. So right now, in the responses and the information that I provide you, we're speaking only of TABE 11 and 12. In the meantime, DRC has said to states that they will allow the locator, and I'm speaking only of the locator at this moment, to be given remotely through an email link that can be forwarded to students by the proctor, by the teacher, by the assessment coordinator. And participants can take the locator at home, according to DRC, without any supervision. Students will be required, however, to have the latest version of Google Chrome on what device they use to take the locator. DRC says this link will be available later this week for programs to begin using. That is the first short-term solution. Next. The second short-term solution is, according to DRC, with the blessing of USDOE, is to allow adult education programs to administer TABE 11 and 12 through virtual proctoring using video conferencing platforms such as Zoom and WebEx. The only requirement for the platform is that the platform has the capability to record the assessment sessions. Providers will be able to pre and post-test small groups of students, say 3 or 4 at a time, and DRC will be publishing guidelines to ensure that virtual proctoring meets the requirements set forth by USDOE. Virtual proctoring in this manner will be ready in about a week. Next slide. There is a long-term solution. The long-term solution includes the use of virtual proctoring services, and there are a number of companies out there that provide this service on a national basis for TABE and perhaps down the road the task test. This service, I will caution, as DRC cautioned, comes with a cost and would provide a live proctor and or the possibility of using artificial intelligence to monitor the test. DRC was quoted a ballpark range to use a live virtual proctoring service with a live person. The ballpark range of $20 an hour. It goes down after the first hour for a live proctor. If instead artificial intelligence is used, the cost goes down considerably. It's approximately $5 an hour. As you might imagine, virtual proctoring services are in high demand across the country, and DRC said the use of this service on their behalf would be a couple months down the road. So we're going to have to stay tuned on the longer term solution. But I think we all can be very relieved with the short-term solutions, being able to administer the locator as well as doing virtual proctoring of tape 11 and 12. Next slide, please. I want to go over some questions that you have asked us that we have responded individually to, but I wanted to share with the entire group here this morning. Question number 1. My biggest concern is entering hours that will push students into needing to tape test. Any thoughts on that? Can we just let them accrue hours and not worry about testing for now? The short answer is yes. Continue instruction until there are the firm solutions that I've talked about, the short-term solutions are put into place from TABE regarding remote testing. Remember that our assessment policy outlines only the minimum hours that are required for pre and for post testing. Actually, if you look at DRC's TABE guidance, actually the hours are much more than 40 hours for assessment for doing a post test. So you are certainly, we want to serve our existing students. Please continue the instruction. Next slide. Can we accept new students into our program without the ability to do remote testing currently? And this is an overwhelming yes, please do. The assessment policy that I've mentioned does provide some flexibility to administer TABE and even TABE Class E beyond the first 12 hours of instruction. And there is some flexibility even within the national reporting system for adult education in respect to time frames. Let's go to the next slide. Please, please do not place students on hold until TABE 11 and 12 becomes available remotely in a week or so. I would suggest, as well as the other AECs, don't put the students on hold, bring them into the program. Perhaps another assessment might be helpful to start instruction in the meantime, and this simply could be a teacher-made test to assess maybe their abilities in math to see where they're at, so that you're target teaching to the best of your ability, since you're not able to do the remote testing as of today with TABE 11 and 12. Next slide, please. The national reporting system, and here was that information that I provided you. That, yes, there you go. There was that information. It provides that flexibility. It says programs should administer the initial assessment intake or as soon as possible thereafter. And given the COVID-19 crisis that we're in, we're going to take that flexibility. So please continue to serve your existing students, even though post-testing is not today available. Please accept new students into the program, even though pre-testing is not available as of today. Next slide, Bryn. There is another option, and this is a limited options with adult education programs, but it impacts particularly those adult education programs that have adult secondary credit programs. Keep in mind that participants may be placed without assessment in ABE levels 5 or 6 based upon the number of credits when they left high school. In adult education, students earning credits in high school level courses can complete level 5 by earning enough credits to move to either 11th or 12th grade according to local school district policy. So keep that in mind. Next slide. Switching gears, we recently revised the professional requirements in one of our policies. An instructor who is teaching the training portion of an IET only, teaching the training portion only of an IET program, minimally must have a high school diploma or equivalent and appropriate industry certification. So if you hire an individual to do just the training portion, say it is welding as an example, and they do not have a college degree, they must have at least a high school diploma or equivalency and industry certification in order to instruct in the training portion of that IET. The other requirements for adult education personnel remain the same and remained intact. Next slide. And Brent, I wanted you to talk a little bit about a form that you have put together that we're going to make available in the future for electronic signature. Brent?
Sure, thanks, Jerry. Good morning, everybody. Recently, I've been asked to pull out the learner record out of Enters. I've updated it with all the demographic information, make sure it's all up to date. And then we also turned the signature into an electronic signature so that you'll be able to send it out and they can put their signature on it and then email it back into a PDF form for you. When that will come out, we're not quite sure, but hopefully in the near future. And pretty much that's it. Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you, Brent. Want to bring back in Matt and Brent at the same time to talk a little bit about Enters and some opportunities that we have here to clean up some data. Matt and Brent.
Okay, Jerry, I'm going to actually go back in time for you. I'm going to share my screen. One, you mentioned our website. Can everybody see that? I want you to see that if you go to DWD, you're going to get a lot of alerts, top and bottom. That's okay. The information Jerry was talking about is under program management, learn more, program policy and guidance, and here is the free AE distance learning stuff that was just posted. Here's all of the information on COVID update for adult ed. The PDF stuff is under the PDF tab, and I'm going to make it small so I can see. Because, you know, technology, I've got all these fancy webcams in the way. All of that information that he was talking about is over here under the professional development tab. So I wanted to make sure that everybody understood where to see it, where to get it, not to worry about all of the other stuff you see, if that makes sense. It's going to pop up. You can minimize it. You can move it. Don't worry about it. It's fine. That's just the way DWD has got all of their stuff about any information you need on the COVID and the UI stuff. So what I wanted to actually talk about with Enters is I sent an email today of the errors to your AECs that we feel you can get cleaned up right now. Those errors are what we've talked about before, the age issues, any demographic issue, be expecting to get an email. If you've not run an audit and not looked at those, any of the age issues, whether they're enrolled or not, there should not be any age errors in the system of either age par sig or age as the delete reason. You should fix those regardless of any enrollment or status or anything else. So that short list went out to your AECs. Expect that in the next few days. The next thing we would like for you to think about in this downtime is something that everybody struggles with all of the time, and that is your NRS Table 7 and filling it out. So I'm going to show you how to do it. We want you to do it now while you have downtime, and it's easy now to figure out and you're not scrambling at the end of the year. You can fill this out now and be done with it. So as the data person, you need to go into Enters. You need to go to Views, Locations, and I've got a lot. It's okay. It'll take it a minute to load up, but here they are. You need to scroll down to your ABE program, not your FA, not the fiscal agent, but your actual ABE program. You're going to edit this, double click, right click, edit, open that location to edit it, and then click NRS Manual. This will bring up the Table 7. Here's the biggest key that you need to understand about this Table 7. It defaults to the newest term in enters. And if you notice, it says 2020, 2021. We put the terms in earlier so that secondary schools or programs can add stuff for next year to get a head start. Ensure that you select the correct term of 1920. You have to manually fill in all of these selections, and you must manually click Save Table. Next most important thing about NRS Table 7, below this line where it says Teachers' Years of Experience, it is only for your teachers, no one else. If you have 10 teachers listed up here as local teachers, whether they're full-time or part-time, it must equal 10 down here. For their certifications, they can be counted as one or more certs. It must be equal to 10 or greater than. Excuse me. Do not count admin staff twice. Do not count anyone at the state level. And what I mean by don't count admin staff twice is if you have someone who is a part-time administrator and a teacher, you either count them as an administrator or as a teacher. That's it. They only get counted once. But all of that still has to add up for if it says teacher, not paraprofessionals, not counselors. If I put 10 right here, I have to go with 2, 4. What am I at? Math teachers, that's 6. So I need 4 more. That's 10. And if I click save for this, I am done. You then have to come down here and put in how many certs they have, right? So if you've got questions about that, Brent and I are available on Bomgar. We have not stopped our hours. We've been on every day for all of this. If you've got questions or you need help, please, please, please remote in. If you're struggling with trying to do stuff remotely, please remote in. Let us help you, okay? We will be more than happy to help get you set up. We'll be more than happy to make sure that your stuff's working with some caveats. We cannot install Inters on a Mac unless it has a virtual Windows desktop. And some instances I have seen where they've taken school computers home and the school is having them VPN or proxy into the school servers. It's blocking Inters. You will have to have your local IT staff take care of that. And if you've got any questions about it, we're here to help. We have not stopped giving assistance since we started. Brent, you got anything to add to that? No, Brent has nothing to add. I'm going to switch it back to you, Brent, so that they can see the slideshow. Any questions on our website? If you've got questions about navigating it, remote in, we can help. Brent, you're going to have to share again. And I, sir, am done unless you need anything else from me, Jerry.
All righty, very good. Next slide. And you talked about that. Let's turn the tables to IAACE. Jen and IAACE asked me to remind you about the survey for the 2020 conference. Please complete the survey. The address is there on your screen. In coming weeks, the board will make some difficult decisions as we approach June and the conference rescheduled dates. Earlier, the board moved the French Lit Conference back because of COVID-19 to June 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. So please fill out the survey to help IAACE out. And before we say goodbye and take some questions, Marilyn has a few words. Marilyn?
Sure, thank you guys. Along with the conference, some of you may recognize my Rosie the Riveter headband. Last year's theme at the State Professional Development Conference was, there's a hero inside all of us. And Rosie was my hero. It has never been more important to find the hero within you than it is today. Indiana adult education has a national reputation as a leader and innovator. Our state and our students will see this leadership as we respond to emerging opportunities the crisis presents. We'll together learn new ways to fulfill our core belief that all Indiana residents deserve access to basic skill, secondary education, or ESL services in all 92 counties, and that these services will be offered by adult education professionals in a variety of forms, always focused on the student's needs. Additionally, DWD Adult Education will support these professionals with high-quality technical assistance and professional development services. We will be here to support you as you support your students. Our leadership will not be judged by the scale of this crisis, but by the quality of our response to it. Rosie's slogan was, "We can do it." And we can. We will. We must. Our students and our state are depending on us. Thank you to each of you for everything that you have done over the last 4 weeks and what I know you will continue to do in the weeks to come. Please, we're here. Reach out if you need us. Thanks.
Thank you, Marilyn. I want to go back to Matt very quickly. As you promised, Matt, are there some questions?
Oh, there's a lot.
Okay.
Sit down and relax. Okay, so a lot of it goes back to the grant questions, and then you got a lot during the assessment portion.
Okay.
So that's your brain function. First question is from Audra Peterson. Some federal grants were given an extension through August. Do you foresee this as a possibility for ABE funds?
No.
That's an emphatic no.
Okay. This is Marilyn. I'll jump in on that. No, we will not extend the adult education grants. We will finish the grant process that we're currently in. We will award new grants effective July the 1st. Along those lines, we did attempt to extend our Work Indiana grants that are out with the WDBs. And as that got into the process, the state office of budget, the budget office for the state, declined those requests. So all of those Work Indiana grants will also expire effective June the 30th.
Okay, that's that one. Good deal. John Schlater asked a question on the locator. Will the email link for the locator be smartphone friendly, or do we know?
As long as the students have Google Chrome on whatever device they use, including a telephone,
okay,
smartphone, the answer is yes. So
that would be either the Google or Android. I don't think that an iPhone can get Google. I've not tried unless there's an app.
Right.
Because of Safari. All right. So does that answer you, John? You good there? And here's a great question from Ryan King. You mentioned that the recordings. He said, how long do we have to keep the recordings for the testing?
Yeah, there has not been any further guidance by DRC in response to that. They are publishing guidance. Perhaps that question will be answered in that guidance. All that they mentioned to us is that it has to be recorded if there is an issue in terms of the security, whether the test was secure or not, so that we can go back and review that. Marilyn, do you have something to add?
So once we receive information from DRC, we will interpret that into a procedural document for Indiana. So we'll answer those kind of questions and get more guidance from DRC in that document.
I'm going to ask a follow-up just in case nobody thought of it. Would it be prudent to treat it like an attendance record or the student file and keep it on file as long as we keep hard copies of that? Would that be just for the meantime until you get further guidance?
That's fine.
Okay. I don't remember what the years are on that. So let me see. I got quite a few questions. Hang on. I have to read these, and it's on the middle monitor. Okay, so Lauren has a question about the locator. And she said, I assume we may not mail locator copies, correct? Okay. And then they want you to clarify TABE testing again. We can do virtual proctoring, but the links will be shared later this week to be able to do so, or so we act as a scribe as the student views the screen remotely.
No, you will allow the students in the comforts of wherever they're located at, say their homes. They will need a camera, a computer, so that you as the line doctor can survey the room to make sure that there's not any other papers or any other folks in the room in order to do that. So you will literally be on the other end of the camera observing them actually taking the test.
Okay, Marilyn, sorry, I was getting feedback from you, so if you want to talk, let me know. So Scott asked for somebody else, what about TABE Class E? And I'm pretty sure that nothing has been covered on TABE Class E because you were very specific. It was TABE 11 and 12 only.
That has been, and I asked the same question of DRC. What about Class E and what about task? And they said first things first, and their focus has been on TABE 11 and 12. Once they have the virtual proctoring up, the email link out for the locator, then they will begin working on Class E and eventually task. I really do believe as far as the task test that we likely will need to use a virtual proctoring service to do that, because obviously that is a very high stakes test.
Go ahead, Marilyn.
I would say I think this is also where Indiana may make some Indiana specific decisions around what we think is important with regard to test integrity. So that's where we will, next week, we will get more information from DRC, and no, we will quickly turn that around and get that information out to you so that when all systems are go for DRC to be able to do the TABE 11 and 12, you guys will have access to that.
Okay.
And by the way, Scott Mills just sent me a text here. You can install, according to Scott, Google Chrome on iPad and iPhones.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Thanks, Scott. I've never done it because I haven't.
Yeah.
I assumed there was an app, but all right. So this is more of a statement from Polly Redmond. Please know that some of us have even less downtime now than we did prior to this because of developing distance and working with our staff to make them comfortable with all of this. Do you guys have any advice or help for that? Go ahead, Marilyn.
Polly, I'm right there with you. I think our staff would say the same thing, that we have, most of us are working longer hours and more now than we did prior to this crisis. But we also have heard anecdotally that there are, you're looking for things for some of your staff to work on. And so that's where we thought we would take the opportunity to suggest correcting errors and getting that one NRS table completed right now. So we feel you, Polly.
Yeah, most definitely, Polly. And I want to add one other thing in addition, going back to the assessment and the distance education. We realize as well as DRC, as well as our friends in Washington, D.C., because we've talked about this as a country with the state directors, the equity question about not all students have obviously access to internet. The capacities are different in maybe more rural areas, not having access to a computer with a web camera on it. Certainly there's a fairness issue here that's involved, and we're very aware of that, and we want to ensure that all students are served, but we've got to take one step at a time, and that's what we're trying to do. Marilyn?
Oh, I got to unmute her. Hang on. Go ahead, Marilyn.
This is a little off topic, but it goes along with what Polly was saying, and I think it's fair to make sure that all of the staff are also aware. Jerry mentioned in the beginning of the interview that, unemployment claims are through the roof. And you should know that a large portion of your adult education state staff have been partially reassigned to other units. We have 3 adult education staff that are working full-time for unemployment right now. We have another 3 staff that are splitting their time with adult education and as what we call regional support managers to help support the workforce development boards in certain regions and the work ones. So there are those of us that are full-time into this. I am also splitting into a different role, and I'm doing some things. I'm trying to set up virtual services. You'll hear more about that soon because it'll include you guys as well, access for virtual services. So just know, I know we're all stretched a little thin, but I am so proud of this team and how they have just stepped up to the plate to support not just adult education, but serving all Hoosiers.
Okay. Donna, this is a direct question for you from Mr. Rob Moore. Who is the ghostly looking man behind you?
Oh, that is not a man. That is Queen Elizabeth II. And she accompanies me to all of the staff meetings and webinars. She's going to outlive us all. God save the Queen.
I shamed Donna into making sure that she had that. In all of our internal team meetings, the Queen has been present, and she was not today, so you're welcome. You're welcome. So I got a couple more questions. Oh boy, it just reset on me. Goodness gracious, technology, and I'm the tech guy. So got a question already. Did that one. All right, go down here. Sorry, talking to myself while I do this. So Sheila Butler had a question about doing the online stuff, the tests. If I can answer this, Sheila. So that means students can take their test on their phone. If you can ensure and record that it is that student by the policies that Jerry listed out, then yes, they can take that test on their phone. If you can verify and record all of that, yes, you can proctor that test on their phone. Right, Jerry? Okay. So we got another question about the IET stuff. On the professional requirements for the IET teachers, you said that if a teacher is hired to teach the training part of an IET only, the teacher needs an industry recognized certification. What if an ABE teacher is teaching both the literacy and the training? Would the teacher need the industry recognized certification? You've stumped them. I'm unmuting you, Marilyn. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so our requirements for teachers are still that they have a bachelor's degree, period.
Okay. Rob, does that get you?
The reason that we did that came based upon a request from one of our providers, particularly for those individuals who are doing the training component, and I used welding as the example. sometimes very difficult to find a welder with a 4-year college degree. Would we not have an allowance for the training portion of it if there's not someone with a college degree, a 4-year college degree, but who has that industry recognized certification as well as the high school diploma or its equivalency? Would we allow that? And we certainly all shook our heads yes for the training portion of it.
Okay. This is from Natalie Reuter. For ELL students, we would like to add new students to our program. Do you suggest we allow them to audit the class at this point? And I assume you meant to say audit.
I take audit meaning that they're not officially in the class.
Natalie, if you want to follow up on that. And then there was a statement from Michelle Davis.
We want them to be a regular student in class.
Yeah, enroll them, teach them, do the distance.
Yeah.
But I think what her question is, I mean, you're not going to be able to do an assessment. You're not going to be able to give that student a Class C assessment. Go ahead and serve them, and as soon as the Class C is available, then you can issue the assessment.
Yeah.
We understand that as we go weeks and months along, depending on how long this takes, we may have students that have significant hours that have not received an assessment. We understand that.
So be it.
This is more of a statement, not a question. Oh, sorry, Jerry, go ahead.
I say it's more important to ensure that the student is receiving the services.
Okay, this is more of a statement, not.
Go ahead.
This is more of a statement, not a question, and I'm going to summarize for Michelle Davis. In regards to jail classes, they're not allowed back in to even teach the jail students. Any recommendations or thoughts on that? I know we've had a discussion about IDOC in general. So
the only thing that I'm going to suggest, I know that I have seen where they're not allowed in, but some entities have allowed packets to be dropped off for students to work at. So that might be something you could look at. I think this is a great conversation. I'll be honest with you, when in talking to our counterparts in other states, most have just basically shut down all corrections education. There's nothing going on. So we're doing a whole lot more in Indiana than any other state. So as we think of new ideas or we hear of new ideas, the packets are the one. I reached out to somebody and asked if that was something that was an option, and they said yes, they were still doing that. That's the only thing I've got. Michelle, Jerry, you have anything?
No, and sometimes maybe the simplest is the best answer. In the distance learning and the flexibility that we talked about earlier on our webinar, that involves telephones, picking up the flip phone if that's all that you have, and that's your technology there. Hey, that will count as direct contact hours with the student. I've heard of programs, and this may in fact be Natalie's program that we're talking about here, but I've heard of more than one program that has dropped off packets to students' homes. So they've not been in a jail or correctional facility, but they have had either students come to a central location, pick up a packet, or even the teachers that have delivered packets to students. So let's don't forget, sometimes the simplest methods will work and work very effectively.
Okay, this one I'll just go ahead and answer, but it's from Sherry Green. When will we be able to send out the electronic signature application? Within the next 2 weeks. Bren stated that hopefully this week, next week, they'll get it to you. But as soon as he's got it done, it'll be sent out to all of you to be able to use.
Yeah, I can follow up with Bren. That's part of the work that we're doing with virtual services. And then we did the adult education application along with the WIOA and Wagner-Pizer applications that can all be completed by students and with a digital signature. So that should be ready now.
And then I got another one on the locator stuff. Can we scan the locator and email it to students?
No, this would be a direct link that is sent to students. So no.
and we took care of Rob's. Alfonso has a question. Let me see if I can get it, Alfonso. No, don't feel okay. But what is the link where students can log on to do their TABE test? Usually we have to download onto our school computers. We don't have anything yet, right?
That's coming. Darcy will get to us.
Yeah, she said we'll get to it. All right. Any more questions? Anybody else got anything? I appreciate the comments about my background, Lauren. You're welcome. Yes, it's a professional room.
Nobody said anything about my background.
No. Only me and Donna. Donna and I are the popular ones. Oh my goodness. Oh.
Well, Matt, thank
Rob
you.
just said he likes your background, Marilyn.
Yeah.
Did you? So if nobody has really noticed or paid attention, what is above her head over there? It is her motto of "Bang head here."
On any given day, bang head here. Yep.
Yes, at any given time. Anything else?
Well, Matt, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah,
No,
we
no
really,
problem. This is my job, right? That's what you pay me for, to do stuff like this.
Well, thank you for joining us, everyone. We had at least 119 individuals on this call. It went really, really well. Our next statewide webinar, as you can see, we've got scheduled on May 13th at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And in the meantime, please continue to keep your staff, your students, and your families safe. Remember, as Dan said, we are all in this together. Thank you.
You guys have a great day. Stay safe. Thanks all.